Hello again, I'm Justin, and today on Dash and Run we're finally going to have a look at the Nikon V2 camera. Now, the V2's been out for some time on the market, so it's probably a bit late in the reviews, but I thought it would be interesting to do a review of the V2 and the V1 and compare the two of them. So first of all, what we'll do is we'll have a look at the new features on the V2 and also what's missing on the V2 that's actually on the V1. And then we'll do a second part to this video later on where we'll actually have a shootout between the two cameras. So first of all, let's have a look at what's on the V2 camera. Still have a 1-inch sensor but with more megapixels, 14 up from the 10 on the V1. There's a new very slow view mode for photos, a physical dial at the top which is missing from the V1. There's a 15 frames per second mode which there wasn't included in the V1. A new body with a larger grip. As you can see, there's no way of gripping the V1. And there's 135 AF focal points included on the V2, which the V1 only had 45 focal points. And there's now a built-in flash at the top, which is also really nice. Before you had to buy an accessory. Also, ISO is also up to 64,000 compared to the 32,000 at the V1. So that's what's new about the V1 over the V2. So what is actually missing in the V2 that the V1 has? Well, the V1 has an intervalometer mode for shooting time-lapse that the V2 doesn't have. There's an information button to tell you how much charge is left and how old the battery is in the V1, which the V2 doesn't have. There is a fade to black or white in video mode that the V2 does not have, and the V2 has a smaller battery which is 25% the capacity of the V1 and is only rated at 300 shots, where the V1 has a 400 shot battery. So much for old over new. I do think that the V2 is a good camera, it's just not that much better than the V1, and with so many things missing and a smaller battery than the V1, I think Nikon really need to have a look at what they've done here and maybe build a V3 with better parts from both of them. Anyway, let's have a look at some photos and video from the kit lens 10 to 35mm from the V2. Okay, let's do an ISO test of the Nikon V2 camera. As you can see, at the lower end of the ISO levels, the picture is excellent, but once we reach the maximums, right up from 32 to 6400, it becomes extremely muddy. In the slow-mo motion video, as you can see here, at 400 frames per second, the video is quite usable on YouTube or on the web, but maybe not in a production. There is even a slower motion version of 1200 frames per second, but that vision is just unusable and really just a gimmick. Okay, let's have a look at some of the lenses you can get for the Nikon V1 series. So the first lens that I have here, this is a 10mm lens. It's a kit lens, it's a prime lens, it's actually very good, it's quite fast. I like this lens. This lens is an excellent lens as a start off for your kit. You won't be unhappy with this lens, very good lens. This lens is 11 to 27.5, so it's got a bit of a zoom to it. It's not as fast as the 10mm lens that I was looking at earlier. As you can see, you've got a 3.5 to 5.6, so it's not so fast, but you have some zoom range in it. Also not a bad lens, quite good. Generally this one and this one will come with the kit. This one here is an 18.5, and basically this is like a nifty 50 or a 50mm lens on a full frame sensor. It's a very nice lens, quite fast, and also great for portrait work and taking stills of animals or whatever, scenery and that. I quite think that's quite a good lens, very well made, good lens. Next is another zoom lens. Now this one here, this is the 30 to 110mm one. Again, this is not the most fastest lens. You've got 3.5 to 5.6, but it has got the VR motor in it, so it's a little bit smoother for still images and for video work. And the lens hood is a nice addition with this particular lens. Next we've got this zoom lens here. Now this is a 10 to 100mm. It's got a lovely slider on the side for doing super zoom modes in video, and is a great lens for video. It's not the fastest of lenses, but it's definitely really good for video work. Finally, I've got another lens that's very similar to the one that I've got here. Now this one here is 11 to 27.5, and this one is a 10 to 30, and there's not a great deal of difference, but it is a smaller lens, this one. This is sort of like the newer version of this, I suppose, so it's a much more smaller and compact lens, and the size difference isn't great. But if you get this now, you find this is a harder lens to get. This is more just the one that comes in the kit, and now this is the more standard one that you get in the kit. So this is a nice lens. There's another one. There's a 10 to 100, and that's a 4 to 5.6 f-stops. Again, it hasn't got the VR motor, so it's not silent. It hasn't got the rocker like this, so it's more just basically this kind of zoom lens, but without the nicer features. Then there's another lens that's just recently been released, and that's a 6.7 to 13mm lens, and that's got an f-stop of 3.5 to 5.6, and that looks quite a nice lens. They recommend that as a good travelling companion lens. Finally, there's another good lens that's come out, which is quite fast, and that's a 32mm with an f-stop of 1.2, and it's a very nice looking lens. It's quite expensive. It's going to cost you more than $500 for that particular lens, but it looks really nice. And there also is some other things you can do with the Nikon V1 series. Now you have this adapter which allows you to adapt any Nikon lens onto the V1 series, and this is a great adapter. So you can get any of the DX series lenses, and you can use this adapter, and now you can actually add those lenses to your Nikon V1 series. That's a great idea, and it really makes filming much better. And if you want to be very funny and have fun as well, if you want to do a lot of fun things, you can also get these lenses here, which are basically security camera lenses, and they're very small, and you can get an adapter, and this adapter will allow it to fit on the V1. They're quite good for what they are. They're quite fast, and you can manually adjust. You don't have all the automatic controls over them, but they are really good. Well, now we come to the actual shootout of the Nikon V1 versus the V2. And as you can see, there is a definite discrepancy in the amount of kilobytes per second that each camera produces when they make a video. The V2 only uses around the 21,000 kilobytes, where the V1 seems to generate around 24,000. Anyway, I will let you make your own mind up from the videos of the two cameras. Anyway, there's a bit of a look at the Nikon V2 camera. Is it a better camera than the V1? Well, in my mind, no, it's not. I think the V1 is a much better camera. But I'll leave that up to you after watching the video, and you can make your own choice. But as always, thanks for watching, and please subscribe to my channel.